Today you see a t-shirt pattern that is not a basic tee. One of them is a full circle flounce sleeve. There's also a square neckline that doesn't involve mitered corners. Super easy to sew. Relax sewing coming your way. I know it's something we all love. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have the Besties Tee from Pattern Emporium to share with you. This is all in the context of Pattern Emporium having a t-shirt sale this week, and they have 10 t-shirt patterns there that are 20% off. If you go onto their website, you'll see a little countdown on the top that tells you when it finishes. It's basically on Sunday Australian time, so in this part of the world sometime during Saturday. I'll leave you a link below that takes you directly to the page where you see all the t-shirts that are on sale. There's one that I have made already and have a video about, which is the Carefree Tee. I've worn that one about a billion times. I've made 2 of those and you can see how to sew it on the channel. I will leave you my affiliate link in the description box and the pinned comments, and it's just really easy. Just click, it takes you direct to the website and it won't cost you anything extra, and I'll receive a small percentage of that sale back as commission. That's one way you can support the work I do here on YouTube. I chose the Besties Tee because I'd had my eye on it for a long time and I'd purchased it when it was updated to include more sizing. So I've had the pattern for a little bit, and it's a pattern that has so many options. It's called Besties because there's basically 2 types of silhouettes here. One is a sort of flared type of t-shirt. It's not full swing, so it's not super voluminous, but it's not slim fit either. For my personal style and how I like to dress in comfort, I think it has the perfect amount of ease around the waist and hips. The other style that you can sew is banded at the hem, which is really nice. That's not all. You have length options for all of these. You have a cropped length, regular length, and then a longer length. You can sew either the flared one or the banded one in all of these lengths. So just in the length department, you can get a lot of variations, and the necklines also, there's 6 types of necklines here. 3 rounded ones, one that is higher, a mid and a low scoop, and then there's a V neckline, which is always a favorite, and the technique to sew the V neckline is the one that overlaps each other. So it is a rectangle that you just overlap and then sew it onto the V. It's not the type that has that type of mitered corner situation going on, so that simplifies it. And then you have 2 square necklines, which are rounded square necklines, which is something I have always wanted to try ever since I saw this neckline on the Hello Gorgeous top from Pattern Emporium. So you can have a high square or a low square, and it's not an actual square. It is squared, but it's rounded here, which means that you can just use a regular neckband piece and just sew carefully around the corners. There are notches to match there, which makes it easier, so I really wanted to try that neckline. Then you have sleeveless option, one that is a wide regular sleeveless and one that is cut away. It's a little further in, shows a little bit more of the shoulder, but it's not a racer back. And then for actual sleeves, you can sew on 5 types. One is a full circle flounce, which I think is really cute, and I'll talk about that later in the way it's drafted. I think it's really good. And then you have cap, short, 3/4, long, all the types of sleeves. There are other sleeves from other patterns at Pattern Emporium that you can mash onto this armhole. They're going to fit perfect. True Romance bishop sleeve, and then you have the Hello Gorgeous puff sleeve, and there's another pattern called Allure, and it's got a bell sleeve. So if you have those patterns, you can print those sleeves in the same size as the Besties, and they'll fit perfect. No need to adapt anything, and then you can add even more styles to the Besties Tee. You need knit fabrics to make these t-shirts. You cannot make them in a woven, and I repeat that all the time because even though I say it, there's always a comment saying, can I make this in a lightweight rayon? No, you cannot make it in any type of woven, even if it's lightweight. The way it's been drafted, it's meant to be with a knit fabric. 25% stretch horizontally, vertically, a little bit less, maybe 20%, and you'll have the appropriate fit and comfort. And there's so many types of knit fabrics that you can use. That's why I wrote there on the graphic all the types of knit fabrics, because depending on the style that you want, you can go from very lightweight to even heavyweight if you want. Sweater knits, stretch velvet, rayon French terry. Another one that you can use is rib knit, which I think is great. If you go lightweight, you can use rayon spandex, modal spandex, bamboo spandex, double brush poly, single brush poly, ITY. You can use athletic knits if you want to, and then heavier weight, you can use Ponte, Liverpool maybe, cotton French terry, and cotton spandex. Personally, if it was my style, it's not that it's my style, I'm just saying what I would do. If you want to make this out of a heavier weight fabric that's a little more structured like these, I would use the crop version for that. Little looser, but crop would look a lot better than if you try the longer versions in heavier fabrics like this. That's just my opinion, but I would generally just prefer the light to medium weight fabrics in my choices. I've chosen to make mine in a 90Y that's got an outrageous print. It's one of those fabrics that has polka dots and stripes on the same fabric, and the way I cut it out is going to make it just be a standout piece on its own. For my second one, I used a rib knit. Now it's been hard for me to source nice quality rib knits here. I do have only a few in my stash, and I recently found a shop that sells quite a few colors. I ordered 1 meter to try it out just to see how it is, because you know, online you don't know. And I'm really happy with the quality, so I'm super happy I can now go back to that shop and just get a few more colors, because I love the feel. Everything's just perfect. The Besties was updated not that long ago to include a better size range from 4 to 30 Australian that goes up to a 59-inch hip at the largest size. And as all of Pattern Emporium patterns, you need to choose your base size, taking into account your high bust so that you get a really nice neckline fit, shoulder fit, armhole fit. For all of these length options, you know, the crop, the regular, the long length, you have a lot of cut lines on the pattern for you to see. Just make sure you're choosing the right one, that you want the right length, but also considering your height. So I'm choosing the tall options for the hems. In the finished garment measurements, you can see clearly what the finished hip circumference is going to be. And of course it's different if you're sewing a cropped version or a long version. There's a little bit more ease the longer you get. I'm sewing a straight size 18 according to my measurements here at Pattern Emporium. Now for the sewing, you use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for everything, which means it's designed to be sewn on the serger. Super easy, just sew along the edges, try not to trim anything away with your blade. And I mentioned that for one of them I chose a really outrageous print with a 90Y, and I wanted to show you how I placed my pattern pieces on this print so that it turned out looking the way I wanted it to look. So you'll see here how the circle flounce looks and why I cut it the way I cut it, and then how the front looks and how the back and what I wanted it to look like across the top. So let's see. You'll find that the pattern piece for the flounce is like this, and you put this on the fold and that on the fold, but I just prefer to make a whole piece. I just extended it with more paper so I can have a full circle. It's just easier to cut that way. This is how my print looks. It's got a division between stripes and polka dots, and that line there is exactly where the fold is. So I want the stripes to be on the front part of the sleeve and the polka dots to be on the back part of the sleeve. So I'll put this aside and show you why. This is my front pattern piece, and you can see I've got stripes down the center, and then I've got polka dots on the sides. The polka dots are different. You can see they've got different shapes, and this is a darker area, this is a little lighter area. I just want to have stripes here on this armhole and stripes on that armhole. That is my vision for this top. It's going to be very unique. For the V-neck band, I've cut a polka dot section, so I'll have some dark polka dots in there, and I've got the stripes right there in the center as well, and polka dots on the side. Although here I have dark polka dots that are going to be together here and over there, so there will be a difference there on the side seams. Now, because I wanted to have this circle flounce here on the sleeves, this is a type of sleeve that takes up a bit more fabric than your regular type of sleeve. It can end up being quite heavy. I did decide to stabilize these shoulders. One of the easiest ways I find to do that is just using a little piece of ribbon. I have so much ribbon from a fabric shop that sends the fabrics wrapped up in ribbon every time. I just cut that ribbon in half and put the raw side next to the raw edge of the fabric and just pin it together and serge it all in one go, and that means that my shoulders are nice and firm. They're not going to stretch and sag and start falling off with the weight of the flounce right there. Now if I was sewing a cap sleeve or a short sleeve, even the long sleeve, it really just depends on the fabric if I would stabilize or not. But for this flounce, I thought 100% I need to do something here to make these shoulders stay in their place. After sewing those shoulder seams, I went ahead and sewed on my V neckband. Every time I sew a pattern with a V neckband, I'm not going to film it because I have amazing videos already on the channel showing you how to sew this type of V neckband. This is how this video looks. You can see how to sew it there. I'll link the video down below and with the minutes there where you can see this exact technique. that is an overlap V technique, which means you have two rectangles that overlap each other like this. After giving this neckband a nice press, it's always so much easier to do it if the side seams haven't been sewn. So now if you want to sew on a regular sleeve, a cap sleeve, a short sleeve, you know, those types of sleeves, you could actually opt to sew the sleeve in next on the flat if you want to. I prefer to sew my sleeves on the round for knits and wovens. This is a video that discusses that in depth if you're interested to know why. But because I'm sewing this circle flounce sleeve, you do actually need the side seam sewn first for this sleeve. So there's not an option of sewing this type of sleeve on the flat because it is a round piece and you do have that circle inside that is closed. So there's no seam on the sleeve, which means you need to have a completed armhole. So we'll just go ahead and get these side seams sewn. Easy peasy on the serger, pretty straight seams really. Because it's always so much easier to hem your sleeve before sewing it on, I did that, and that is especially important with this type of sleeve because it's a circle flounce. So if you're trying to hem this after it's been sewn onto the t-shirt, it's just going to be so much bulkier. You have the whole t-shirt hanging off, you know. Why not do it before? You can see it on the table there. I've just done a small hem allowance, 1/2 inch I would say. I wouldn't do a hem allowance bigger than that because it is fully curved, it is a circle. And because I love hand basting, I think hand basting my hems like this always gives me a really nice result. I gave it a nice little steam also to make it really flat, and then I went ahead and used my twin needle. My twin needle is for jersey fabrics. It's got a separation of 3.0 in between. It gives me awesome results, and all I do is lengthen my stitch length to 3.5. That's what I find works best with my machine. I've tried all the settings, believe me, and I always use the same one and I get nice results. I do have different types of twin needles though, some that have a smaller space, some that have a larger space, and some are appropriate for different types of weights of fabric. But I find that this specific one works for ITY perfectly. After you have your sleeve hem, then you can sew it onto these armholes. Now the circumference of the inner circle of this flounce has been drafted to fit the armhole perfectly 1:1. So you're not stretching or easing anything into anything. It's really easy to sew. You have notches there that will match the shoulder seams and the seam under the arm. You'll see that the longer part of the flounce is the one that goes on top of your shoulder here, and then there's a shorter part that goes underneath, and that just makes sure that when you wear your circle it's going to be even like that. You can't have a normal circle with the circumference right in the middle. What happens then is that you get a really high area here and then down here, and it just looks really awful. I've seen that before on some ready to wear and it just doesn't look good. So if you want a circle to look even, you need a longer area and a shorter area right there. And that's what you see here, and that's what you just match up to the armhole. Super easy, pin them all, sew it on the round. And that's basically it. Besties Tee, so easy to sew. The bottom hem, what can I say? Nothing really special going on there. Also done with the twin needle. And this is my Besties Tee. This is a really special print that I'd been saving. I didn't have much of it. It was only like 1.2 meters. And I knew it was going to be some type of standout top because the print is really bold, you know. So I really wanted these stripes to be in the center of the t-shirt. So I placed them there, front and back. And then you have different types of polka dots on the print also. So there's a lighter area and a darker area, bigger polka dots, smaller polka dots. I also wanted these to clash on the side so I wouldn't need to worry about matching any polka dots because that's no fun. So I've got them like that. I cut my neckband out of a polka dot area. It's not a really wide band, it's narrow-ish right there, sewn with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And in this area is that you have an overlap. So it's just overlapped right there and sewn on. Really easy to do. I wanted to have stripes on the sleeves, stripes in the center, and the polka dots right there. And that's what I have in the front. That's how I placed my pattern piece right there. And on the separation of the prints, you can see that the stripes end and the polka dots stop. That's where I placed the middle of the sleeve so that the notch that would match the shoulder would be right there. Anyway, it's so cool. I think it's a really cool t-shirt. When you sew tops that have statement sleeves like these that are a bit more voluminous, I'm not thinking of these being worn under things because it would be really bulky under a jacket or anything to put all this circle flounce in there. So I'm just thinking this is going to be something worn on its own, that's going to stand out on its own. That's how it looks inside. There's my little ribbon stabilizing the shoulders. Seam right there on the round. You can see the longer area and the shorter area of the circle sewn right here on the side seam. So it makes perfect sense. Your flounce looks nice and even. I've paired my t-shirt over my stretch velvet sporty lounge skirt, which is also a pattern from Pattern Emporium. So yeah, perfect match. It's black, so it goes with everything. So let's see how it looks on. This is the first Besties tee that I made. It's a really fun ITY knit, very fresh and comfy to wear. The length here is the top length, which is just the regular length, not cropped, not extra long. And I have the V neckline option and the circle flounce sleeves. Mine is at size 18 Australian. You'll see the details up closer. I'm really happy with the amount of ease that the Besties tee have. I think it's just right. A little flared, but it's not full swing, so there's not a ton of volume there. Here is a look at this V neckline. It's an overlap V neckband technique, which is really nice and easy to do. Circle flounce sleeves that are super pretty. Statement sleeves. This is not a t-shirt I would want to wear under a jacket, just wear on its own and show it off. It's pretty out there. It'll stand out, I'm sure. And I'm really happy with it, and it was so easy to sew. For my rib knit version, I've chosen one that is waisted with a band. Love that. I plan to wear that over a wide leg type of pant, so I definitely wanted the hemband to bring that Bestie tee in closer to the body to match better with the wide leg style. I do have a few extra pattern pieces here because I'm sewing a different version. For this one, I've decided to do the long sleeve. And because I really dislike hemming rib knits and I didn't want to leave it raw, although I have done that in the past with other garments I've made using rib knit, I really wanted that to be finished. I put the sleeve against my arm just to measure the length, of course. You usually need to lengthen most of the sleeves of everything because I think I have longer than standard arms, I suppose. So instead of lengthening the sleeve, all I did was cut out a new cuff, which was super easy. It's not part of the pattern, but I just measured what the bottom of the sleeve was going to be. And because it's a slim fitting sleeve, I just cut the exact same length for a cuff. If I wanted my cuff to be 2.5 inches here, it means I had to cut double the length. I cut about 5 inches tall by what the bottom of the sleeve measured. Easy peasy. And so I had a few little seams to do on the sewing machine first. The seam of the cuff, the short seam of the neckband had to be sewn together. Also the same for the hemband. So I did all of these at 1/4 inch with my sewing machine using a narrow zigzag. I really don't like sewing those with the serger. I think they turn out really bulky. There's a lot of thread going on when you serge. There's 4 threads, at least for me. So you don't need all that excess bulk in there when you can do it on the sewing machine and just have those seam allowances press open, when you can just fold those wrong sides together and you have all the bands, the cuffs, the neckband, the hemband, all the bands. So I'm sewing the low squared neckline for this one. It's a neckline I know is going to be super pretty and I just wanted to sew it. So it's squared but rounded right there. So on these little corners you have notches there and there that are going to match the neckband. You have all the notches on the actual neckband to match everything on the neckline, so you don't have to think about it or do anything special there. So you can see all these notches that are going to match the neckband to the neckline. Just fold that neckband wrong sides together and match them up specifically there. I always match the center front and the center back also, and then the shoulder seams, and then you have it all pinned there. And because this fabric is a little slippery, I found it a little slippery when I was pinning and working with it. I thought I'm just going to go ahead and hand baste it. Now when you want to hand baste a neckband, all you have to do is sort of stretch the neckband to meet the neckline underneath. I choose a middle point in areas that are a little long in distance and put an extra pin there in the center. And then I stretch the band to meet the neckline as I go hand basting, and it's super easy. Then you end up with a perfectly hand basted neckband that is already stretched a little to match the neckline underneath. Super easy, it looks super neat, and I know I'm going to be having a much better result when I serge instead of dealing with a billion pins and all these 3 layers trying to slide on each other, because I found this fabric was a little slippery. Serging it is just like sewing a round neckline, only it's not round, it's a little squared, but you still have those rounded edges, so it's really easy to serge all in one go. Very easy. After doing that, of course, you go to the iron and press your neckband nice and flat. It's easier to do in this stage. And then at this point, you can either sew your sleeves in on the flat if you want to. But you know, I'm going to be serging these side seams first. It's just the way I sew all of my garments. So I've done that. And here you can see this sleeve. Now the sleeve is nicely fitted. It's not a straight shape like you see in a lot of patterns. It's very curved to follow the shape of your elbow. You know, we don't walk around usually, you know, all stiff like that. We do have a slight bend, you know, in our normal posture. So that is incorporated into the drafting, which I think is genius. So on the back part of the sleeve, you'll see that it's a little longer than the front, and there are notches to match there. You'll see there's a little excess there on the back. All you need to do is just ease everything in and sew it together, and then you just have a little bit more fabric here to accommodate for this bend that we have in our elbow. I thought the drafting was amazing that was incorporated there into the sleeve. Because I drafted my extra cuff to have the same circumference as the bottom of the sleeve, all I did was place them right sides together. I didn't have to stretch anything to match anything, and just whip on those cuffs on the round on the serger. Super easy, and I get the extra length that I needed while also getting a nicely finished area without having to hem traditionally. And I think the cuff marries well with the banded hem at the bottom. For the band at the bottom, it's just like sewing any band. Divide everything into quarters, pin your side seams, pin your center front, your center back, and then just go stretching the band slightly to match what's underneath at the hem. Do it all on the serger, and it's so easy and so neat. So I hope the camera can pick up the details here, but it's so lovely. This is a blend of rayon and polyester and spandex, mainly rayon, and it's super soft. This is the rounded area of the square. Now I have to be honest, you know, this does come quite low. It does show a lot of the chest, but it doesn't show cleavage at all. So if you're uncomfortable, of course there's options for you to sew the higher square neckline if you want to try it out. I know that I'm happy with this square neckline, and it never gets that cold here, to be honest. I don't need anything up higher that much. There is the band. I never top stitch bands down. You know, I see a lot of discussion on Facebook of people saying, how do I do this if I don't have a cover stitch? You know, 90% of my neckbands are not top stitched, and I just press them nice and gently, and they look so neat and so nice. I think you can really ruin the look of a neckband if you top stitch it and it turns out wonky. So if in doubt, just don't do it. And definitely with this rib knit, I think I would have stretched it out and it would have just ended up looking terrible. So don't stress about neckbands, just don't top stitch them. I never do, and I think they look really nice. So there's a rounded area. Here are my long sleeves with my cuff. It's really nice. It's just got the right amount of length that I wanted. I like my sleeves to be sort of around here. It's personal preference, you know. You can wear them up here if you want to, but when I have a sleeve right here, I feel like they're short somehow. And then here is the band. Now for this one, it's a shorter length than the top that I've just shown you already, the ITY version, because I know it's going to have the band. The pattern piece here is about 5 or 6 inches shorter than the other version that is a little longer here. I still didn't sew the longest version available in the pattern. I think that's just way too long. So I'm really happy with this. I've paired this over my Vacation Vibes wide leg pants that I made a few months ago. They have a beautiful print that is sort of more subdued and black, brown, and this type of green. I think it went perfectly, especially because the banded version finishes closer to the body. It's a little shorter, so you can wear it over something wide, like a wide skirt or a wide leg pant. I don't wear maxis, but I could see this working with a maxi as well. My wide leg pants are my type of maxi look, because I just don't wear maxi skirts, but I do wear these types of pants. So let's see. This is my second Besties Tee, totally different this time. The pattern has a lot of options, and I use a green rib knit. This is a banded version. This is a long sleeve version and the low squared neckline, which is really pretty. I think this goes really well over my Vacation Vibes palazzo pants in rayon. There's a little bit of green in there, so I really like this look. And up closer, you'll see a little bit of the details. This one is a little shorter. The banded hem brings it closer to the body, which I think is great for a wide leg pant. I have long sleeves, and I added my own little cuffs there as something extra, just to make the sleeves a little longer and to make hemming the rib knit easier. Here you can see my wide square neckline. This is a lower option. I really love how much skin is on show here without showing any cleavage, so I'm really happy with this. But you can sew a higher squared neckline also. The band is easy to sew because there aren't actual corners here. Here you can see a closer look at this neckline. You can see it's rounded, so it's really easy to sew. And those are my little cuffs. I love them, so nice. Really love the style. Of course there's others, there's so many options here, and depending on your fabric choice you can make this for winter or for summer and everything in between, and I really love the style. What can I say? I love the style. I think it's got so many cute options. Other options I would have loved to have time to make the same banded version, but sleeveless and black with a low squared neckline. I think that would be a basic that I would wear over everything. So many options. Oh my gosh, I had to really pull some restraint to only sew 2 versions this time because I would have sewn more. But I'm trying to limit my sews to 2 or 3 mainly because I just don't have time for more. I'm just always swamped with so much work, and it's really difficult to choose because I always would like to sew 5, for example. So really happy. I think you would like this pattern. It's got so many options for you to choose with the length, with the necklines, the sleeves. You know, you can get so many different looks with just one pattern, and I think that's always really worthwhile. Don't forget to check out the t-shirt sale at Pattern Emporium. There's 10 t-shirts there, and that's all from me. I'll see you again very soon with more sewing. Bye!